I must make him nervous. We got Mike behind the mic, and he only talked for about a minute and a half. I don't know. My name is Chris Raymer. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I said that at a big meeting in Georgia a few months ago, and I really offended the next speaker up. The nerve of him introducing himself as a recovered alcoholic. I'm just an alcoholic. I don't want to do anything that separates me from you. And I just want to... talking to so many of you, I've had a chance to meet some of you. And some of y'all I know just through your emails. And I've got some buds in this room. Mike and Melissa I met, I don't know, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And we started talking about coming down here, feeding the mosquitoes. And and it's taken this long to get my schedule worked out so I could do it. But I'm honored to be here. I would rather do this in affiliation with a group that's kicking butt, carrying the message of God into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous than the largest conference in the world. I'm not a big speaker. I do it a lot, but I don't. It's not something I care to do, and I don't. And I want to thank Mike and Melissa from what was in that rice is all I want to know. Whoever made that rice is not from Florida. Who made it? It was good stuff. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, he made it. Oh, that's good. It was good. If I start hallucinating here in a minute, we'll all be picking up Desire chips at the end of this meeting. Y'all don't have a problem with me removing this jacket, do you? Okay. I said I'd wear a jacket, and then I do, and it spends most of its life on the floor. Only place I leave it on is when I'm in Europe and it's freezing outside, and then I just, I wear my overcoat up. I like the hot. More sweat. Let me see how I can do this. I was talking to somebody earlier today, and as always, before, if I get a chance to visit, and the conversation went, you must really enjoy pissing people off. And it's like, I've heard some really crazy things asked of. No, I don't. Nor do I want to tonight. I've, in the last few years, taken a real clear effort at the beginning of my talks to make sure everybody understands where I'm coming from. I know some of y'all know me. You've heard CDs of mine. You know kind of where this talk's going, and that's why you're here. You've brought things to throw already, and that's perfectly okay. And some of you have been just kind of dropped in this vat, virgin-like. So let me just try to be as clear as I can here. I love Alcoholics Anonymous, and I love alcoholics and addicts of every ilk. I don't care where on the spiritual path you are, whether you're long time sober, brand squeaky new. What a cool journey this has been for me, and I want you to have the same kind of journey. I feel a responsibility to tell the truth, and my truth is my story, and I can't change that. The guy that got cranky with me in Georgia, because I talked about being a recovering alcoholic versus being a recovered alcoholic, and he found that offensive. But he got up the next night and talked about killing women and children in Vietnam the whole hour he talked. And it's like, that's his story. That's cool. Go for it. I personally hope I find him alone someday. Because I just think that there's some people in this audience right now, there's some folks here right now that this may be their introduction to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I need to try to make this as clear as I can. I'm a student of the Big Book. I was not always a student of the big book. I spent 7 years out there in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous doing what a lot of y'all have done, which is not stay sober, put together periods of sobriety, get to a point you can't stand it, go drink again, come back in, go back out, come back in, go back out, until all the money ran out and there was no more treatments and there was no more halfway houses and there was no more therapy and there was no more antidepressants and there was nothing but me in a dark room and a bottle of booze and God. And I had to decide what it was going to be. The big book talks about we stood at the turning point, that's where I finally got the turning point. Am I going to stop talking about this and start doing it? And old timers, and I use that term figuratively because there was some young people there too, but they had a little sobriety under their belt, and they showed me what I needed to do in order to get sober. And in the process of doing that on a daily basis, they irritated me and they pissed me off and they made me cranky. And why do I have to do that? He didn't have to do that. You know what I'm saying? And they just jumped it right back in my lap. And I got sober because of it. And here's the grinder, because some of y'all have not had that experience. Some of y'all came to this fellowship. You're doing great. You've never worked any of the steps. You're going to meetings. You with us? You love the open discussion meetings. I just love open discussion meetings. I just love people sharing their problems, and I just love that. I don't. It's just that simple. And if that's your experience and you're sober, that's just great. The good news is maybe you're not an alcoholic anyway. Because I'm the real McCoy, folks. I'm the cat that the book talks about on page 34. If you can stay sober on a non-spiritual basis, you're not one of us. That means if meeting makers make it, it means if going to a bunch of meetings, drinking a lot of coffee, playing some dominoes, if that's keeping you sober, keep doing it. My question to you, my question to the newcomer that comes back in and gets grindy because we seem to be so quote-unquote rigid. My question back to him is, hey, buddy, how's it working for you? How's it working for you? Because if doing it that way is working for you, keep doing it. But that's not how we did it back in the olden days. Back in the early days, July, we celebrate our 70th year. Early days of Alcoholics Anonymous, we had success rates through the ceiling. Y'all, of all people should know that. Big book, printing of the second edition, we had a 75% success rate published. Clarence Snyder's ilk up around Cleveland. Guys, it's documented. They had close to 100% success rate in certain areas of this country. What were these people doing? They were working the steps rapidly, within a few days, finishing the steps, turning around, going to work with other drunks. That's what they were doing. Of course, we're much too smart for that today. We have better treatment, better antidepressants, better everything. And our success rates are in the toilet. Best case in the United States, guys, right now it hovers around 8% in this country. I work in the treatment center field. I do clerical work for a hospital. I read everything there is out there to read about this business. Our success rates are terrible. Last quarterly reports coming out of New York. Every area we could be down in, we're down in. What we need to do is all march up to GSO in New York and say, hey, buddy, how's this working for us? Because it ain't working worth a poot. We're dropping them through the cracks. We're losing them by the thousands. And I get cranky about it. I'm coming to share my experience with you, so you can't argue with me about my experience. Again, if my experience is different than yours, so be it. How cool is that? But I don't want to pick bones with anybody in this room. Unless perhaps you're one of these individuals sitting in open discussion meetings, looking the newcomer dead straight in the face and telling them to take their time to work the steps. And if that's you, shut up. Shut up immediately. That's killing more alcoholics and addicts in my fellowship and my sister fellowships out there than anything else I know of. Buddies, we don't have time to take our time to work these steps. The little guy that's coming off the street all fried pied, he's going to get a little window of grace I see it in treatment all the time. They come in, they spend a big chunk of change to come to our hospital, and they get a few meals in them, and they get a little sleep, and they start to bounce back, and they start feeling good, and they see other people getting excited about this. And then we've got this little window of opportunity to allow them to experience the same thing. Because if they don't start experiencing that, they're just going to turn around and go back out again. See? That little window of opportunity is there for everybody. It's called God's grace. People in the treatment center industry want to call it a pink cloud. I hear that in meetings still to this day. It makes me want to scream. Oh, that Johnny, he's sure on a pink cloud. Maybe Johnny's working the 12 steps and having the results. Could that possibly? No, he's only been sober 6 months. He can't possibly be that happy. I mean, no, real kidding, really. The absolute arrogance of people. Here's the grinder, because everybody gets on the same. Well, my sponsor said. Well, my counselor in detox said. And it's like it's law. He said it. It must be true. It's absolute tragedy. Guys, that's why we use the big book. That's why Bill Wilson wrote extensively when he came out with this thing 70 years ago and published in 1939. He said, this is what we're going to do, because our message is already starting to get watered down. We're going to all get on the same page. It's called the big book. And subsequent fellowships that have picking it up and used it, it's the same thing. The solution to a spiritual experience, the connection to God, comes as a result of working the 12 steps. I hear people in meetings all the time, AA got me sober. It's not my experience. God got me sober. AA was the vessel that got me to God. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm just so grateful that there were men and women in the group where I ended up in 1987 that were carrying the message of hope to the newcomer as it was outlined in the 164 pages of the book. Somebody asked me the other day, just a minute ago, we were sitting and talking, are we making some headway on them, and in this middle-of-the-road world that we live in? And I got to say, yeah. I've been doing this for a long time. If the good Lord's willing and the creek don't rise, in a few months I'll have 18 years. And I've been speaking from the podium most of that time. And it's like we'd get up and we'd start talking about the big book stuff. We'd empty rooms. People would just get up and walk out mad, throw a finger on the way out. Fury. I talked to my brother. He still experiences it in Dallas. We haven't exactly turned the corner yet. Open disgusting meetings are still. The guys in Iceland call them dark tunnel meetings. Y'all know what dark tunnel meeting is? It means at the very end of there's a little bitty light. You could get lost in there. Open discussion meetings, folks, are the bane of Alcoholics Anonymous. If there was one mistake Alcoholics Anonymous made, it was allowing a little article in the Grapevine to be printed called the Open Discussion Meeting in the 70s. And we began to see an immediate decline in success rates. Fact, research it. Because everybody got in there, and with the help of a whole bunch of well-meaning treatment centers that thought it was a great idea, we didn't finish with you here in treatment. Your insurance ran out, so if you've got any more problems, go to AA and talk about it. That's what they did. This is what they still do today. I just need to get this out of the way now. Don't do that. Don't come into the meetings and talk about your problems. Come before the meeting. Come after. Stay late. Let's go to the little coffee shop. Let's talk about those problems. Let's talk about some stuff. I guarantee you, if you got a problem, I know somebody that can help you with it. I've been around that long, and there's people in this room that can do the same thing. But in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, for the 1 hour that we get a chance to talk about the solution, we need to be talking about the solution, not your own specific solution to your own little your own problem. This is going to be tough. If you would, get your hymnals. We're going to sing one real quick one. We're going to talk about this just a second. I got to watch my clock up there. Okay. I was raised down in the hill country in Texas, and was going to be a professional chef for years and wanted to be a chef forever, and I thought it was a perfect job for me. You could go to work every day and drink and chase good-looking waitresses and drink some more, and it was great. And it worked for me for a long time. I was pretty successful, and when alcohol and later on the dope worked, it was a cool thing for me. It just was. The problem is the stuff stops working, and darn it. And here's what a lot of people don't understand. A lot of Al-Anon folks, a lot of people in our own fellowship, tragically enough, don't understand. What we're trying to battle in these rooms is not the drink and the drug. I mean, I get calls every day because of my exposure out there. I get calls every day from well, it's not every day. A couple of times a week, I get calls from somebody wanting me to be on another anti-drug board or anti-alcohol board. I won't do it because that's not our focus in this deal. There's nothing wrong with alcohol. If you can drink it with impunity, if you don't have the disease of alcoholism, there's nothing wrong with that stuff. The deal is if you are suffering from the disease of alcoholism, and you come into these meetings, we can show you how to get well. And I just need to say it before I get into this. Getting well does not mean just don't drink one day at a time. Because again, if you're just coming to meetings, not drinking one day at a time, there's two things going on. One, you're fixing to go kill yourself or somebody else because you're going to be crazy. The other is what I said at the beginning. Maybe you're not one of us. Alcoholics Anonymous is not a self-help program. Book says we live life one day at a time, folks. The Big Book doesn't say we stay sober one day at a time. Big Book says, it asks us 3 places in the first 164, are you done? Are you finished? Are you ready to commit? I never heard that. I'm ready to commit today because she's packing, My boss has got my time card ready to tear it up. I was just fixing to get sober. What a good idea. And I get sober, put a little dry time together, and the guy puts the time clock, the little card back in. You're golden. The little lady moves back in. Everything's fine, But the problem is I have alcoholism, and it comes with this thing called the spiritual malady. And the spiritual malady is the third piece that nobody wants to talk about. I cannot tell you how many treatment centers I was around, folks, when I was out there trying to get sober that never talked about the spiritual malady. And yet the Big Book talks about it endlessly. The spiritual malady looks like this. This is what alcoholism is. Let's make sure we all get on the same page. Alcoholism is not drinking too much alcohol. There's a lot of people out there that drink too much. We can go right out here on the street. I bet you we can go down to any one of these boat docks, and there's a whole bunch of drunks sitting out there, sunburned like a son of a gun. You know what I'm saying? Miserable, cranky, but they're not alcoholic. They're not alcoholic. They're going to go home, put some suntan lotion on, and go to bed. There's a small percentage on that boat dock that will go home and keep drinking. Those are the cats we got to look at. Those are the cats we're here for, not for the other guys. Bless them. Hope they have a great life. It's not our focus. Physical allergy. Doctor's opinion talks about it. When I put alcohol in my body, can I control it every time? Or does a sneaky little thing called a phenomenon of craving kick in that at certain times, not every time, but certain times kicks in, and I go to the races. I sat down at happy hour, and I was going to have a couple of drinks and go home, and I drank a couple of drinks, and all of a sudden, pooly moly, it's 10 o'clock, and I've had a 12-pack. Was that my intention? Absolutely not. Go home, little wifey poo look up from her little couch there, and she says, "My, you must have been thirsty tonight." Yeah, I was. 100 degrees out there. You with us? And guys, it had nothing to do with thirst. Long after the beer stopped tasting good and stopped quenching the thirst, I was, for some strange reason, still pounding them down. You with us? It's the phenomena called craving. Normal people never experience that phenomena. Ever. They drink a little bit, they stop. How come? How come you're stopped? Now it's early. Oh, no, that's enough for me. I'm starting to feel it. I'm sitting there scratching my head. Me too. What has that got to do with this conversation at all? Y'all got the phenomenon of craving. Everybody that in any facility I've ever been around, any doctor I've ever talked to, any counselor or therapist I've ever talked to, they all agree with this. Once the alcoholic starts to drink, at times he can't stop. That's where this idea comes from in our meetings that we still hear ad nauseum. If you don't drink the first one, you won't get drunk. It's like, no kidding. Who knew? Really, who knew? Jeez. We're killing people with that stuff. We're just killing them. It's the second piece of the disease that kills alcoholics and addicts. It's the mental obsession. I got a mind that tells me I don't have a problem. I got a mind that can't remember the fact that I can't control the stuff. I got a mind that won't remember the car wreck where I killed somebody. I got a mind that won't remember your stupid war stories, much less my war stories. That's why the book says quite clearly, we're going to pursue this into the gates of insanity or death itself. This is life and death for us, folks. That's what drives me crazy when people want to mince words with me because I get so passionate behind a podium. How can you stand up here and bore them spitless with your stupid war stories? When are you going to get around and talk about the solution? Third piece. I tell you still, the mental obsession is the most controversial piece in there. On page 24, it clearly states what this is about. If you got your books later, go check it out. If you're trying to have trouble explaining this to your families, show them page 24, because it will clearly explain. A lady called me on the phone. What is he? You just crazy? Yeah, now you're getting close to the solution. Because the world out there, folks, buddies, the world out there thinks we're just misbehaving children. I talk to counselors all the time. He just needs to grow up. Buddy, he's as grown as he's going to get. He has a failure of success. That's why he drinks. Oh, I want to puke. No, I don't. I have a physical... Oh, okay. Spiritual malady looks like this. Now, guys, I'm in AA for 7 years, bouncing around the fellowship and trying to get well. I've never heard this in a meeting in 7 years, and I was a meeting-making fool because that's all they told me. Chris, you want to get sober? Uh-huh. Meeting makers make it. Well, I can do that. I got an open quart of beer in the pickup truck floorboard there waiting for me when I'll make this meeting. I'm not stopping for nothing, but oh, gee. Spiritual malady. How about the words irritable, restless, and discontent? Can y'all get down with that? Yeah, think about it. Irritable, restless, discontent, anxious, full of tension, the book talks about. Fear and tension. Can y'all get down with this? This little free-floating anxiety that kind of creeps in, and there's nothing really going on, but just don't feel comfortable in your skin. You know what I'm saying? Y'all are all nodding your head. Yeah. How about depression? Number one symptom of this stupid disease is depression. Yeah? A lot of you guys are taking pills for it. Bon appetit. There you go. They work great with a quart of whiskey on top of it, too. I can tell you that. Not knocking it. Take them. I'm just saying. Depression, number one symptom. How about boredom? Book talks. How about this no sense of direction? We call it ADD today. You know, we're going to give you some narcotic for that too. You know, it'll slow you. No sense of direction. I can't stay focused, you know. Don't give me a quart of beer and a remote control. I'll drive the room crazy. It's too much, you know. There's too many good things on all at once, and I'm flipping. Jeez. I wake up one day and I've decided I want to be this, and by nightfall I've changed my major. You know, it's like I'm going something else, you know. God, I'm a moving fool. I just move. I can't seem to get some sense of direction. How about this feeling of uselessness? Talks about on page 52. A feeling of uselessness. Can y'all get down with that? Everybody talks about this low self-esteem. Yeah, no kidding. But you see, normal people don't understand that. Everybody. I do family lectures with family members, and they say, but Chris, all of us have days when we're depressed a bit. And all of us have days when we're bored and kind of feeling out of sorts. We all feel like, guys, alcoholics and addicts, we live with it 24/7. I wake up in the morning, irritable, restless, and discontent. I go to work, driving, traffic, irritable, restless, irritable, restless, discontent. Y'all with us? Just go home at night, sit in front of on the front porch, you know, irritable, restless, discontent. Gunk, gunk, gunk. Did you hear it? But absolutely. And normal people don't understand that. Well, why is that? Because all they want to focus on is after we've had too much, they want to focus on the stupid drama that we're going through because we drank too much. They don't understand that the miracle of the alcohol happened before we even took the sip. The miracle was, have y'all ever done that? You ever gone in a store and bought alcohol? Yeah. I've talked to, oh, that was a stupid question to ask in here, but I get a little ahead of myself. Yeah. That cracked me up too. You go to a little 7-Eleven. How many of y'all got a little favorite store you always stop at on the way to work, back from work? I go in there in the morning and I'm irritable, restless, and discontent. And the little guy in the front and the line and the people and the stupid kids are driving me crazy. And all I want's a fried pie and something to knock the edge off. Just milk, anything. Just the irritable, restless, discontent. Walk back in that afternoon, go to the cooler, get a 6-pack of beer, walk back up in the same line. Same moron still in the front of the line trying to get 6 money orders to 6 different places. Creep. Loser. Get a checking account. You with us? If he'd have been there that morning, I'd have eaten his behind, you know, but I'm sitting there, go ahead, buddy. It's a big world out there. Everybody's got their, go ahead. Oh, no, I would, go ahead and cut in line. I'm all right. I haven't even got the stuff in my system, and I've got it in my hand right here, and I'm already getting well. Can y'all get down with this? I don't have to have that stuff. Oh, man. People don't understand that. I'm not drinking to get squashed. I hear the collegiates, I drink to get messed up, man. I drink to get out there. That's not true. That's a lie. There were times, I guess, when I first started drinking, I was doing that. But I'm telling you what, for an alcoholic and addict, you've been around this fellowship, out there in the real world drinking. After a while, I don't want to get messed up. I want to get right. Y'all down with that? I get right. I go up, knock on your door. Hey, baby, you ready to go? I mean, I'm cool. Everything's great. You know what I'm saying? I drink a little bit too much. I'm messed up. I knock on the door. My patches on crooked. You know, I look. You ready to go? And just like, shut the door. No. I grew up in the hills. Dad was a drunk, periodic drunk. He was the nicest guy, kindest, gentlest man you'd ever want to see. And he just periodically would go on benders, and consequently there was lots of chaos in the family. And my twin brother and I hit the same genetic button, and we're both alcoholics. And they do the primary purpose there in Dallas. And my little sister was a year younger than me, a year and 3 months, never had a problem with liquor ever. That's how it works. You know, you either catch the bullet or not. But it drives the therapist crazy because by their theories, we should all have been loaded. But we weren't. I had a half-sister that's never had a problem with alcohol. Love her. We caught the bullet. Went to Houston, got an apprenticeship program, successful. Liquor was working, great. Drinking every day, not having a problem at all. No drama, just not a happy camper unless I'm drinking. That's all there is to it. Can't go wash clothes unless I got a beer in my hand. Can't go to the Kroger unless I've had one in the car. You know, and it's gradually getting worse. I moved to Austin, was there a couple of years, moved to Atlanta, moved back to Denton, moved to Dallas, moved back to Houston. I'm moving a lot. I've talked to some of y'all in here that know exactly what I'm talking about. Why am I moving? Because it's always greener over there. See? And I keep thinking, well, you know, I know I'm drinking a little bit too much here, and I've pissed that girl off, and I've kind of wrecked that job, and, you know, but I'm not getting fired because I'm good at what I do, you know, so, but I'm chasing something. And, geez. 15 years I did that. No DWIs, no blackouts, no robbing liquor stores. Just, I had a buddy of mine in Kerrville that says, my wife sponsors her. She says, she was saying, my drinking, it was kind of like being in Groundhog Day every day. You know, it was just the... I thought that was great. That's Lauren is her name. She's a sweetheart. It's like it was the same thing every day. You know, it's going to be different. I've moved to a new town. I got a new job. Everything's going to be different. You know, join the health spa. You know, go once. That's what we do. Half the financial amends I had to make were health sports centers, you know, that I signed up for because I'm going to get healthy. You know, I joined a church and everything's going to be. It's the same. It's endlessly the same. The only time I can get comfortable is I'm sitting in front of the television, killing another 6-pack of beer. And I'm miserable. And I'm seeing a therapist, and they're working on the issues and the problems and trying to help me with my stuff. And I'm so grateful for all I learned from them. But I kept drinking. We set therapists in a bad spot, folks, because we go to therapists trying to stop drinking. And my book says no human can deliver me from this disease called alcoholism. Only the spiritual experience can do that, and that's God. But we put a counselor or a therapist or a psychiatrist in a very precarious spot. I'm sorry we do that. Just because I say it from the podium doesn't mean anything's going to change. We're still going to do that, you know. They can help us with so many problems, and I've said it from 1,000 podiums. I think all of us, if you have the opportunity and the money, I think by all means, go see a therapist if you're having some problems. You won't stop drinking, but go. You know, I did for years. 1987, first wife's exited stage left. She's tired of me saying I'm going to stop and not being able to stop. And I'm living with my brother, my twin brother, and it's not working well. I got a little apartment in town, and finally, I'm working for him at the bindery, and thank God for family. I'd have been on the street, and stuff's just stopped working. You know, there was a day I could drink and get well, and now I'm drinking and I'm just not well. I overshoot that mark too quick, and I'm happy for 10 seconds, you know, and then I've missed it, and now I'm sloppy, and I'm causing trouble, and the yets are starting to happen, and the things people tried to scare me into recovery with for 7 years are all starting to happen, and I got to tell you, you know, there wasn't a person in those meetings for 7 years in Alcoholics Anonymous that ever tried to hurt me, but they just were going about it wrong. I need to ask all of you, if you're trying to scare somebody into recovery, you need to stop. You're not going to scare anybody into recovery. We don't have the capacity to remember those war stories. And I know some of y'all will disagree. I heard a guy from the podium 2 weeks ago say it. You know, if you don't remember your last drink, you probably haven't had it. Screw you. That's not true. It's not in the book. It's something cute and clever that somebody came up to say. The book says you won't remember your last drink. You'll get caught in the mental blank spot. There's 20 pages that explain that. But nobody ever bothers to read it. Oh, jeez. AA didn't work. Therapy didn't work. I'm taking 7 pills a day. Anti-anxiety, antidepressants, sleep medication. I'm taking 7 pills a day to try to just kind of stay level. And of course, I'm drinking on top of all that. Terrible. Went home after work, cold November night, rainy. Walked into my apartment, picked up the mail finally, big old stack of return checks again, and I'm just disgusted. You know, the moment of truth when you look yourself in the mirror and said, you know, buddy, this is it. You know, the line in the movie says, this is as good as it gets. And that was me. That was me. I'm 35 years old and I have nothing. Empty apartment. By myself again. No address book. No hope. Got to the medicine cabinet, took up some pills and some alcohol. Didn't give it any thought, really. Just, I'm done. Tried to commit suicide. Tried to off myself. No dramatics. Nothing romantic about it. It's the coward's way out. Anybody says different. I heard a guy in a meeting the other day talk about, he died so that we could live. I said, oh, absolute rubbish. He died because he was hopeless, and I'm so sorry. His family's left holding the bag. It's the coward's way out. Any of you in here considering it, please remember I said that. But I didn't know what else to do. I heard a voice that night. Those of you that have heard my CDs are tired of hearing this story, but again, it's my story. I heard a voice that said, don't do it, go back to AA. And it could have said, sell everything you have and move to Africa, and I would have listened. It's like, what? Africa? How? Boat or plane? I would have done anything drastic, but as mundane as it, go back to AA, please. I mean, a burning bush I need, but this says, Chris, don't do this. Go back to AA. I heard it 3 times that night. I made myself sick. It gave me the creeps. I don't know where it was, what it was. I just heard this voice. And I was hearing lots of voices back then. I mean, conversations with people in the car, Some of y'all can relate. I like those conversations because I usually won the. So we are going to have sex, right? And that's it. Okay. I made myself sick that night and laid back on the bed. The next morning I got up and I still heard this voice. I was hung over like a big dog, but I heard this voice, Chris, don't do it, go back to AA. Went to a doctor that morning. I don't remember. I had to work, so I was there at work. And at 6 o'clock, I had the meeting scheduled. A guy had taken me to a meeting one night, drove me by it, says, if you ever want a good meeting to go to this meeting right here. And they asked me if I wanted to go in that night, and I told him no, I wasn't done yet. He just picked me up out of a blackout. Y'all with this? He's just, but I'm not ready yet. I'm not done. I'm waiting to hit my bottom. I was at my bottom one more time, and I'd been there before. I was hopeless. And that night at 6 o'clock, I walked in the back doors of this AA meeting, and they were all carrying big books and laughing and joking, and I hated their guts. And I walked in, and I hate your guts. I did not want to be there. I did not think it would work. I've been in AA for 7 years. I've picked up thousands of desire chips. Meeting makers don't make it. Meeting makers gradually go insane and try to commit suicide. That's my experience. They said, come on in. Little girl grabbed my belt loop, set me down. It's a 19-year-old girl. That's why I hate it when we have separate, segregated meetings for young adults. I know some of you love men's meetings and women's meetings. Buddies, if that had been a night when there was a women's meeting and that girl was not there, I would be dead tonight. Her name was Denise. She's still sober today. She grabbed me by the belt loop, set me down, and patted my leg and says, welcome. Got me a cup of coffee, roll of paper towels to clean up the mess, and a little quick, coffee up. And they went around the room and they shared some hope. It was a first step meeting, not one stupid war story, not one single solitary stupid, pointless, ridiculous, mundane, I've heard it a million times, stupid war story, not one. Stop telling war stories in meetings. You're wasting your time and mine. There's one place for a war story, folks. The big book describes it in chapter 7. It's called a 12-step call, and is the most powerful tool we can use to get an alcoholic interest. It's called identification. But once you've identified, and he's in the rooms, can it already? What's the point? Folks, we are driving people away from our fellowship by the thousands with these stupid war stories. From the podium, you ought to see your faces. Some of you look like I just slapped you. Sorry. Sorry. Read the literature other than the big book. Read the other conference-approved literature. Read Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers. They'll tell you point blank. We didn't tell our war stories back then. We didn't figure it was anybody's business. Our sponsor already knew the war story anyway. What we were there was try to figure out how to drink, how to live sober. We already knew how to drink. You with us on that? I'm not saying your war stories are not important. In its place. I've sat in noon meetings for years, especially in the big cities. Y'all see it all the time. We have a noon meeting. Everybody comes in with their lunch, and you got the nice businesswoman, and she's all dressed up, and, you got the little mother back there, and she brought her kid in, just going to have a quick meeting, and it's like, and then some old hairy-leg boy gets up and starts talking about the people he shot and the jails he was in, and the lady that was in the business suit, she just looks a little uncomfortable, and damn, I thought I was in the right room. I thought this might work, but I've never done that. This can't possibly be me. I did it for 7 years, folks. Listen to these stories, and I can't relate because I'm a functioning alcoholic. I know some of you will bet, but the drama is not what got me here. It was the hope that got me here. And that night in 1987, when those cats got around me, they were sharing hope with me. They were talking about the physical allergy and the mental obsession and the spiritual malady. They were talking about being miserable in their own skin and coming into these rooms and all of a sudden getting connected to a power that had not only the answer for the alcoholism and the other stuff, but all my other problems. They talked about getting their credit cards back. They talked about getting married. They talked about buying a new car. They talked about getting a new house. And I hear people in meetings all the time say, you don't want to talk about that. Other people in these rooms are not as fortunate. Listen, folks, no kidding. I know that. But if I'm eating out of dumpsters in Houston, Texas, I need somebody to pull me with a vision. That's the chapter in the back of the book. There's a vision for you. I need somebody to pull me with a vision of how things are going to be different. Because I've had long periods of time when I just wasn't drinking one day at a time and my life was miserable. I want to know if there's any hope for me. Can I wake up in a few days and have the obsession to drink and do those other outside issues gone from me? But you can sit in a meeting till the cows come home and never hear that because they're too busy trying to tell their stupid war stories. We've gotten off the page. They shared hope with me at the end of the meeting. The guy asked me if I wanted to stay sober. Never forget it. Chris, are you done? Are you ready to stay sober the rest of your life? You want to get on this spiritual path with us? Yes or no? It's a yes or no question. I said, well, one day at a time. Y'all heard. I'm going to repeat myself. I live life one day at a time today. I understand that. I could be dead tomorrow. You with us? I'm grateful for what I got today. I ain't too worried about what's happening tomorrow. I get back on a plane like I came over here with, full of all those little Mickey Mouse kids and stuff. I could cut my own throat. I don't know. How do y'all live here and put up with that stuff? That entire plane smelled like urine. I don't. Some of you mothers, y'all are used to it. I am not. I like, what is that smell? Oh, shit. Guys, one day at a time is about living life. That's what this says. That's what the book talks about. They asked me point blank, and then I told him that, and he said, that's what I thought. He said, Chris, we've watched you up here in this fellowship for 7 years trying this one day at a time. Why don't you do what the book says and make a commitment that you want to do this thing? I mean, that's what Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob talked about. Are you done? Because if you're not, go drink. We're not going to knock it out of your hand. Nobody knocked it out of our hands. We're not going to knock it. Go. I followed him back in the coffee room. It was set up kind of like, I followed him back in the coffee room. I said, ask me again. I did. He turned around with that little grin on his face and says, Chris, are you done? Are you ready to make a commitment that you're going to try to do this? Yeah. Welcome. Tomorrow we're going to start the steps. And he turned around and walked away. I remember thinking, whoa. And they sat down with me that night, and I was detoxing and felt like crap. And I got to tell you, they sat down and they showed me in the book where it talked about the physical allergies, just a little vignette. They showed me what was wrong with me. And they explained that, Chris, your problem's not alcohol, that's your solution. The problem is the alcoholism, and that's what you need to recover from. And we're going to show you how to get some power in your life. And not this, we're powerless over people, places, and things crap, but some power in your life. That's what the book says on page 45. Geez. I went home. I'm in a pump, cranking radio. Buddy, this could work, you know. Next morning, they were on my doorstep to make sure I made it back. And we went in, did a little AA meeting that morning, and went in the back room, and they asked me if I was ready to make a commitment with God. And they opened the book to the page, third step prayer, and we got on our knees and did a third step prayer, just like that. We got up, went and ate some food, came back. They gave me a little notebook, said, let's start working on that fourth step. I said, buddy, aren't we pushing this a little fast? You know, I mean, after all, I'm still detoxing here, you know. He says, yeah, I know you are, but you're conversant. You're okay. Started working on a fourth step. A few days later, I had it done. 2 weeks later, folks, I'm sitting on the tailgate of my truck up in North Texas after a Friday night meeting. 2 weeks to the day I tried to commit suicide. And I'm sitting on my tailgate, cold November night, crystal clear this night. Big full moon up top. I'm looking around at all the liquor stores I'm surrounded by. My cocaine dealer lives in the apartment complex where I live. Friday night, I got a pocket full of money. I'm done. Don't want it. And I started crying. I didn't give a rat's who saw it. I started crying. Walked up to my apartment, hiring a kite, because I knew that the difference from me and 2 weeks ago was worlds apart. Somehow, guys, something happened in 2 weeks. I got off my butt for the first time in AA and actually started doing the work. Those old-timers, they didn't let me sit for 5 seconds. I just want to sit this one out. I'm going to sit out in the coffee room and drink coffee. No, you're not. You're going to come in here. You're going to sit next to the chairperson, because next week you're going to start chairing this meeting. That's how they did it. You're going to read how it worked. You're going to participate. Yeah. It's time to make it stick. Everybody thinks this is willy-nilly stuff, that some of us are going to get this and some of us are just not. When it's your time, you'll get it. That is rubbish. When you get off your butt and start working the steps, you're going to have the spiritual experience. God's grace is even, falls on everybody the same way. Black, white, green, blue. Cocaine addict, alcoholic, it doesn't make any difference. You do the work, the miracle takes place. We got a fellowship of men and women out there slipping and sliding, picking up 90-day chips and relapsing, out there doing it their way. And then leaving loaded saying AA doesn't work, just like I did. Never doing the work. And I have very little patience for it. This is not an easy does it program. This is not a take your time to do it program. This is a let's work these steps rapidly and get through this stuff so that you can have that spiritual experience. Everybody wants to wash this spiritual experience thing down, because some of us have had these barn-burning spiritual experiences, and some of us have the spiritual experience of the educational variety. Listen, I don't care what you had. I don't care what you had. It's sufficient enough to overcome alcoholism. Isn't it? Everybody in here is going to have a different spiritual experience. The problem is that some of you in this room have not had it yet. And you're the one taking shots at those of us that have. If you're sitting in these rooms and you're miserable, you haven't had the spiritual experience. If you're sitting in our fellowship still wanting to drink, I heard a lady in a meeting not long ago, in my own meeting, she says, well, there's days I can't even go into HEB, go down the wine aisle. I can't even go near that wine aisle. What a crying shame. 15 years sober, you still can't be around alcohol. You are off the page. The book says you still have an alcoholic mind. You have not recovered. I didn't get sober, folks. God didn't sober me up so I could walk on tiptoes worried about being around alcohol and dope. I can go anywhere I want to go. How am I going to go watch a Yankee game without beer? I got them on both sides, slopping it in my lap. Boston fans, every time. I had this spiritual experience. I want to say this real quick before I run out of time. Because when I talk on CDs and stuff, people get them and they misunderstand sometimes what I'm saying. I had a spiritual experience 2 weeks into my recovery. I had recovered from alcoholism at that point. You with us? Now, there was some physical healing that took months and months and months. Physically, I was a wreck. I had kidney damage, liver damage. I had fried my little brain. I mean, it was a year before I could listen to your conversation and remember what you said. Y'all follow what I'm saying? Real short attention span. I mean, there was physical damage that I needed to and that just didn't change overnight. It took some time for me to get past that. But the obsession to drink lifted in the first 2 weeks. And that's what recovered alcoholics are about. Make sense? Here's the grinder. I got to wind this down. Here's the grinder. In our meetings, they've been divided kind of into two categories. We've got the war story meetings and the pissing and moaning meetings. And none of which should be allowed to exist. Y'all follow us? In the olden days, we had two kinds of meetings. We had step meetings and we had speaker meetings. That's what we had. We were going to study the literature, or we were going to hear about somebody talk about studying the literature. That was it, you know? We didn't have any of this. Because, again, because of the treatment centers and other influences, what we ended up doing was turning our meetings into little therapy groups, and we all understand that, don't we? Some of y'all wearing little buttons. AA is not therapy. I wonder who said that. Because I've certainly said it from the podium a million times. AA is not therapy. If you're using it for therapy, quit. It's very dangerous. I'm saying for your own benefit, you need to stop. You're in a room possibly with some of the craziest people on earth, and what do you think I should do in my marriage? You know, and collectively, we've all been married about 1 million times. It's like, I don't know, try it again maybe? I don't know. But you could go to a well-trained therapist and get some good advice, and that's what we need to do. We're not lawyers in here. We're not doctors in here. We got people killing people out there, telling newcomers what to do with their if you're taking antidepressants, you're not sober. Who? What? What's that about? That's an outside issue. We got no opinion on that. It's none of your business what they're taking. If you don't want to sponsor people on antidepressants, don't. But shut up about it, because you could kill somebody. It's happened. Lots. God, isn't this enough, the book? Isn't this enough information that we can transmit to the newcomer? Tried and true, guaranteed. Why do we have to come up with something else to talk about? I want to read you something. Specifically about the pissing and moaning meetings. On page 98 in a chapter called Working with Others, some of y'all need to read this. This is a great chapter. It's not a matter of giving that's in question, but when and how to give. That often makes the difference between failure and success. The minute we put our work on a service plane, the alcoholic commences to rely upon our assistance rather than God's. He clamors for this and that, claiming he cannot master alcohol until his material needs are cared for. Nonsense. Some of us have taken very hard knocks to learn this truth. Job or no job, wife or no wife, we simply do not stop drinking as long as we place dependence upon other people ahead of the dependence upon God. You with us? AA's job is to get cats connected to God, not to fix their problems. God can do that. That went right over most of y'all's head. I just hear it tomorrow. Tomorrow at the noon meeting. With that little one-eyed sumbitch, I tell you, I don't know. He sure shared a lot of opinions up there. No? I'm sharing this literature. This is why a lot of cats don't want to sponsor. What happens if my sponsee asks me something and I don't know the answer? Direct them someplace else. Ask them, let's look in the book. Absolutely. I don't have to have all the answers, folks. God's got all the answers. My job is just to get them connected to God. I'm going to say it again. Alcoholics Anonymous is not a self-help program. We are not here to fix you. I can't even fix myself. My job is just to help you have a spiritual experience so that God can fix you. God, and along the way, out in the back, smoking a butt, we're going to share our lives with each other. And maybe you can learn something from my experience. But in a meeting, God, let's get with it. Jiminy Christmas. My question when we go to our meetings, you're sitting in your meeting next week, you're sitting in a meeting, one that you like, ask yourself the question, listen to the people share. Is a newcomer hearing what he needs to hear in order to get sober? Because that's a tough question. I have to ask myself that question even in my own home group. Did the guy that came in, first time in a meeting, did he hear some hope? Or were we too busy trying to fix this moron's divorce over here? One more time. See? Everybody does the same. Everybody. Chris, if he comes in and he's upset and he has a problem and he didn't talk about it, he's going to leave and he's going to get drunk. And then whose fault is it? He's going to get drunk anyway. It's not our place to fix your life so you don't have to. How many of you cats in this room drank and drug when everything in your life was going super? Let the record show every hand in the house is up. How many when your life was absolute crap? There you go. So what are we trying to do? Fix your life so everything can be great. I don't know. Those guys in the early days worked with others. They worked the steps. They rapidly. I was going to tell this story to one of you guys, and I'm going to tell you real quick. I was over in Sacramento talking near there, and we went to an Indian reservation to talk, and there was 200 people in this room, and there was this old geezer up there, who was about 45 years sober, and he was up there sharing, you know how they just you know, they're the best, you know, and he was sharing his story, and he was a street guy out in L.A., and he went back, and I wish I remembered his name. He was just a wonderful old gentleman, and he's talking about. On his third day of sobriety, he was out working a logging truck, and his sponsor drove up in a car and handed him a notebook and said, "It's time to start working on your 4-step." And the entire room erupted with laughter. They thought that was the funniest thing in the world, getting somebody to start a 4-step on their third day of sobriety. And me and the little buckaroos, little big book guys that I was sitting with, we all just looked and said, "What's everybody laughing at?" Because that's what the instructions said. Do a 3rd-step prayer. Next, we launched out on a course of vigorous action. You're supposed to work on a 4th-step the day you do a 3rd-step prayer. This little guy's sober 45 years. You'll follow what we're saying? Some of those ones in there laughing, they ain't picked up a 6-month chip yet. You know, it's like, boy, isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Those guys had me working with others rapidly, working with others. I wasn't doing big book studies and stuff. Guys, buddy, you want to go work with some drunks? Yeah. What do? See that box of big books? Pick it up. Let's go. That's not what I had in mind, you know. I want to lead a meeting or something, you know. I should be president of AA by now. You know, it says, no. You want to help? Make coffee. You want to help? Empty the trash. You get a job in this fellowship, folks. If you're around this fellowship for a few weeks and you haven't found a job, you're not going to stay. Find a job. Volunteer for a conference. Volunteer for a group function. Do something that you don't want to do. Chair the meeting. But that's what they had me doing. And a miracle took place. One day I'm sitting here looking at you guys saying, boy, this place, you guys just don't do this right. I'm talking about your meeting, your AA, your fellowship. And the next day, you know, it's like, buddy, because I just cleaned the toilet. This is my club. Hey, get that ash out of here. Get that coal off the floor. What is this? What are you? You with us? I'm taking ownership. This is my fellowship. Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob got together 70 years ago, folks, I believe, so that I could live, so I could have the coolest life imaginable out there. I got a little simple responsibility to turn around and carry the message back. People are always, Chris, God, don't you get tired of traveling? Yes. Don't you get tired of doing it? Yes. Why don't you take it easy for a while? Why don't you mind your own beeswax? Because as long as there's life in me, I'm going to keep trying to help. I'm going to keep... The guy comes up at the meeting. Did it yesterday. Walked up right after the meeting. Chris, could you sponsor... Before it's coming out of his mouth, can you sponsor me? I'm going, no. No. I don't want to listen. I know. Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to. Nobody said you had to have a great attitude about it. They just said you have to do it. The day guys stop coming up and asking me, I guess it'll be the time God sees fit for me not to do it anymore. My life is too full today to stop. I'm financially secure. I mean, I owe no money to speak of. I got a nice wife today, and a monogamous relationship. I mean, what is that? My friend in New York sent me this. I got to read it and close. This is a great little line. It's not in the big book, but this is a great website. This guy emails every day. Y'all know you get the little sayings and stuff on the internet, but this is a particularly good one. He's a historian in New York. There can be no happiness if things we believe in are different from the things we do. I'll read it again. There can be no happiness if things we believe in are different from the things we do. You with it? This is my first sponsor. He got me that. And my sponsor today is the same stuff. Do as I say as I do. Be one person. Be whole. If you can't show up and be responsible, then don't commit to do it. Be honest. Be who you say you are. The book talks about we're like actors, and I always had this belief. I'm the greatest chef in the world, and I'm the Donald Trump of North Texas, and, well, Don Juan, too. And when I got sober, I realized that, buddy, I was not a very good person. I deep down inside, I mean, there was an adult trying to get out. And by working the 12 steps, I got a chance to finally see who God wanted me to be. And this is the tragedy for so many people in our fellowships. They're sitting in meetings, staying sober one stupid, long, arduous day at a time, and they're still not happy. They owe everybody in the world. The credit cards are maxed out. They can't rent a car. They can't travel because they're still wanted in 3 states. They haven't cleaned up the wreckage of their past. But they're staying sober one day at a time. If you stayed sober today, you've had a successful day. I'm going to tell you that's rubbish. That's not what this book says. If you're happy, joyous, and free today, you've had a successful day. Because that's what sobriety is about. We paint this picture in the guise of humility. It drives me crazy. Here I'm answering for I'm just an old busted down alcoholic, and somehow one day at a time I've managed to put a little sobriety together, and I trudge that road every day, and some days I just don't know if I can make it, but I appreciate you for giving me this 13-year chip. Thank you for sharing your misery with us. Listen, guys, do I think that's important? Am I making fun of anybody? No, I've done that 1,000 times. There's not one thing I'm talking about from this podium that I haven't done. Not one thing. I've made all the mistakes. I'm not talking about you. I've done it myself. But I'm telling you, you get up and give a little pitch like that, and the little 20-year-old knucklehead in the back, maybe he's an alcoholic, maybe he's a crack addict. I don't know. We're never going to get a chance to qualify him and get him in the right room because he's not going to stay. Because if that's the best I can do at 13 years of sobriety, shame on me. What do you think this should be then, Chris? A pep rally? Yes. Yes, I've said it from a minute. Yes. We're supposed to pull the newcomer with a vision. Even when life's going tough, guys, if I can get quiet with God in the morning and realize how many blessings I've got, it's a wonderful day. And no matter what life is thrown at me, because it's not going to be perfect in sobriety, no matter what life is thrown at me, all I got to do, if I'll pull my head out of my butt You with us? I've said it from a million points. We're like a bunch of ingrown hairs. We're just all turned in on ourselves. It's me. The book says, 62, selfish and self-centeredness is the root of the problem. Didn't say alcohol's the problem. Selfish and self-centeredness is the problem. I got to get out for just a minute. And before I get up from the podium and share the fact that I'm going through a little tough time today, and one day at a time, I need to look around the room and see if I can find somebody else in here that's having a worse day than me. And I need to look that kid right dead straight in the face and say, buddy, if you want to know more passion, more peace, more sense of direction than you've ever experienced in your life, then don't just come to meetings. Find a sponsor that's had an experience with the big book. Sidle up next to him and ask him to take you through the work. Do exactly what he asks you to do in a rapid succession. If he wants you to take longer than a month to do the steps, you need to find another sponsor. You don't have time to wait. This is not a race. You didn't get sick overnight. You're not going to get well overnight. Who are you? The arrogance of you to say that. It took me 2 weeks. I've known too many of you that it happened sooner than that. Usually, right after you made a commitment to do the work, and everything starts to get better, and the power starts flowing, and the job offers start coming, and your life starts straightening out, and the health improves, and the legal stuff starts backing up, and you start going, man, this is cool. You with us? Then you go into a meeting, right? And you want to share it, right? But you're only 3 months sober. Hey, shh. You can't talk in this meeting till you're 6 months sobriety. Makes me want to cry. You need to be shouting it from the mountaintop. You need to be pulling people with a vision. I've said this from a gazillion podiums, folks. We don't need any more Chris Ramers. We've got one. You know what we need? We need you. We need you. We need you. Because the newcomer coming in the door, he may not relate to me. Might relate to you. If you're sober and you got a smile on your face and you're happy about your sobriety and you're obviously wanting to share that sobriety, she'll sidle up next to you and she won't believe a thing you're saying. But you know what? You'll sit down with her and start working her through the steps, and you'll see this little glimmer. You'll see this little glimmer in her eye. And all of a sudden, she'll look up at you, and she'll get that look in her eye, that little glassy look like, no shit. And you got her. You're hooked. It's all downhill from here. You got her. That's how it works. God uses each and every one in our own way, in our own tone, in our own gentleness or abrasiveness, whatever it is, to reach certain people in these rooms. And it takes every one of us. It takes every woman in here, every kid in here, every black person in here, green, blue, gay, straight. Gosh, even Yankees. I'm telling you, guys. Amen. If any of you cats in this room ever want to visit with me, you call me. I got business cards and I got email. And I was talking with some of the cats. I love y'all. The high spot of my day when I get a chance to visit with you cats. And you're going to catch some flack out there. Y'all don't listen to my CDs and stuff and go into a meeting and eat somebody's ass. Don't do that. That's not how we do this. Love and tolerance is our code. But the deal is the guys that you sponsor, bring them up the way the old-timers did and start sharing some hope with them. And then pretty soon you'll walk in, you've got 5 or 6 guys with you, and pretty soon people start seeing what you're doing, and they get excited too, and they ask you to take them through the work, and then you get a chance to do that. And you don't have to be tough with them or heavy-handed. I can do that from the podium. Don't do it in a meeting, because you're just going to get shot. They're going to shoot you. With it, he used to be handsome. He had the daylights beat out of him doing that. It just bless his heart. Bless his heart. In your own way, go carry this great message of hope. And we'll see you out there on the road. Thank you so much. Bye.